Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okelo. I am the CEO and the founder of Madaraka Festival and also the host of Madaraka Festival podcast. Today, I am really excited to bring you a really special guest, one of the few Kenyan female DJs in the diaspora, DJ Biz. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed to be here.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the amazing work you do as a DJ, as a model.
Yeah.
I saw that you're involved with Miss Kenya USA last year?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Share
a little more about you to maybe just add a little icing to this introduction, because I want to make sure I introduce you properly.
Of course. I would describe myself as a versatile connector. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I have had music in my life, from the age of 5. I fell in love with the piano at first. I played drums. I was in, bands, jazz band, rock bands. I was in drumline, marching bands, percussion, and then I eventually became a producer and transitioned into DJing for music production and DJing. Those are things that I taught myself. And yeah, I love music. Music is its own language, and something that I've always been inspired to learn and to teach others and to connect others with, something that I've gotten to experience as a DJ recently, going into the club scene is just observing the curation of joy. I look at people on the dance floor, I'm like, wow, these people are dancing because of the music I chose. And I'm able to feel the emotions and the energy and transform it into their best night, because you never know what people are going home to. But when you see them at the club scene, they're happy, they're dancing, they're excited. So that's something I want to keep doing. I dabbled a little bit into, mental health with Miss Kenya USA, the pageant last year. That one was a different transition, but again, still want to connect individuals, especially the African community. My platform focused a lot on mental health, especially within the children. I wanted to provide guidance and alert people about suicide prevention and how things like that are impacting the community. But yeah, that's
I love that. I just wanted you to
rambling,
to share all of it. No, there was no rambling. I wanted you to share all the pieces of you that you want people to know as we start our conversation.
Of course.
But now I want you to take us back. Take us back to when you're 5, 10.
Yes.
Share with us some of the sounds, some of the foods and the smells that you grew up with that shaped who you are today as DJ Biz.
Okay. So I remember an exact moment. I was 5. This was back in Kenya. We lived in Ruiru at the time.
Where do you guys live?
Ruiru.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And I was accompanying my mother to choir practice. And I was just watching, and then they started playing, and the music director was the main pianist. And I think it was my first time, honestly listening to piano. And I just remember, falling in love with the sound and just being mesmerized with the flexibility of his fingers and his flow and how he was able to create a rhythm. To me, that's what kind of started my love for music. But yeah, during that time, as Kenyans, as Kikuyus, we love our potatoes. So there was an event right after, and I remember going back to talk to the music director, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that. And, he eventually connected with my mom. I got a few lessons, and that's when I first started learning how to play a piano. But, yeah.
Wow. And so when you're speaking about potatoes, you didn't go deep enough.
No.
Are you speaking about that as your favorite Kikuyu dish, or as your mom's favorite meal to make for you guys?
It's a little bit of both, honestly. Yeah. It's always been my favorite dish. Doesn't matter. All my foods, they have potatoes in it. Yeah. Different styles of potatoes.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I feel like the love that I have for potatoes is kind of similar to what I have with music, because it's like potatoes come in different styles, and so does music, and the smell and the feeling, they're very connected to each other. So.
I like it. Yeah, potato actually is in so many Kikuyu dishes too.
Yes.
Count some of the dishes that potato is in. I know it's in Githeri.
Mukimo.
Mukimo is the pounded potato.
Yeah, pounded potatoes.
What is it that you add to it to make it green?
You can add kale, spinach, whatever green vegetables, really.
That's what turns mukimo green. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what is the most popular Kikuyu dish? Is it mukimo or njahe?
Njahe.
Is njahe a Kikuyu dish?
It is a Kikuyu dish,
Okay.
yeah. Let's see. The most popular, honestly, I would say anything with chapati. Like, chapati and stew, like yam stew.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to like popular outside events like mutura, things like that, you know. Yeah.
It's nice. I love talking about food.
Yes.
and also, when I ask this question to all my guests, because it's the most genuine part of the conversations I have with people, you know, because when people go back to when they were so young and how that influenced who they are, it really brings the child in the guests, you know.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that.
It does.
Yeah. So then, you know, you shared with us a little bit about where your love for music started with the keyboard back in church, you know, in Ruiru. And then now you're here in Seattle.
Yeah.
I remember running into you for the very first time at an event organized by Foira from Namibia.
Yes.
And, you know, I first ran into you in the audience.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if you are the DJ, but you mentioned that you are DJ. And then a few minutes later, I saw you actually bringing joy out of people, including me. I found myself moving my feet.
Yes, I love
so
that.
Then, how did you get from Ruiru musically to the stages that you are on in Seattle now?
It's been a big transition, but I've also maneuvered in different areas.
Yeah.
So from playing the piano back in Kenya, like a few years later, I moved to Boston, joined a choir there, and that's when I started playing the drums, the Congo drums.
Yeah. So you're still a percussionist?
Yes.
So if I gave you the percussions, you'd kill it?
Yes.
You know, you're looking for a percussionist in my band.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard you guys talking about it. I was like, it's okay.
Okay, so you've already pitched yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Boston, playing the percussion.
Yeah, drums, and then I eventually joined like the children's choir.
Yeah.
And then moving forward to like middle school, I joined the drum line.
Yeah.
High school, drum lines as well. I played a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
In high school, I started like with the cymbals. I moved to bass drum, and then I moved to the tenors, which is like the 5 drum set for marching band. And then I joined the pit, which is like the percussion. So playing things like xylophones, you know, cowbells, everything. And then after high school, I went to college, and it was really overwhelming. You know, I moved out when I was 17, and so I kind of had to like vet for myself and work, go to school, create a future for myself. So I was like, okay, let me just take a pause for a little bit. And then a few of my high school buddies from band, they reached out and they're like, hey, you know, we want to create some sound. We want to create a band. That's when our jazz band started.
That's still in Boston.
Yeah. And then we played at like house parties, beach events, things like that. And then eventually, like, it was time for me to like keep going with my school. So I wanted to go to UW, so I came out here, and I didn't do anything for like the first 6 months in terms of music, but then eventually I was able to connect with a few artists in my class, and that's when I joined the rock band, and I was the main
Pier.
drummer. Yeah. Yeah. I was the main drummer.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple years. We performed at a lot of clubs, cafes here and there in Seattle, around Seattle.
Yeah.
We had one gig in like Vancouver, Canada, but yeah. And then after that, I knew I had to keep going with music, but I just needed something to connect all it together, and so I decided to get into music production. At that time, I didn't have the resources or the money to be able to like go and get taught how to produce music. So I just sat down and I created a plan, and I was like, okay, I want to learn this software. So Logic and GarageBand were like two of my best friends for a long time, and it was a lot of just going on YouTube and just researching, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I use this button? And then eventually after some time, it was like every day, like 30 minutes to an hour of using GarageBand and Logic. And I was like, oh, I can actually create sounds now. Like, I know what I'm doing. A few years later, I was able to collab with a few artists and started getting into mixing and mastering, and we were creating songs, and I did that for a while. I was able to work with a few studios locally, actually, like 8 Mile Studio in, I think, Tacoma, or they used to be in Lakewood, and then Lucid Vibes up in Coquitlam in Canada. Met lots of people through there, and I realized I was missing something, and I was like, I feel like I'm stuck in a room, I'm making music, I'm enjoying it, but this is not it. And so I was like, I want to explore, so that's when I got into DJing. Another thing that I self-taught myself was like, I don't know where to go, but I know I can do it. So just went on YouTube, bought a controller the next day, and I was like, let's do it. Let's just learn the controls, learn how the music goes. And then after some time, I eventually, started releasing videos. And I had a few people reach out and were like, hey, I want to hear you play. Come watch us play. My first gig was at a venue like here in Seattle. And it was for the Independence Day, like Kenyan Independence Day. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was like 3 rooms, 3 different DJs, and I was like really nervous. I was very intimidated. I was like, I don't see any other DJs look like me. They're not small, they're not young, they're not female, so I hope I do really good.
But you're telling yourself.
Yeah. I'm like going to the show, I'm like, okay, this is different. So I had a big fear of like judgment or just like being intimidated in general because, this is a new industry. I'm finally outside. But anyways, that gig was like life-changing for me. It was when I discovered like, oh, wow, like I really have the ability to change the energy in a room. And this is something I really enjoy doing. But yeah, fast forward a couple years, now I'm routinely DJing at clubs. I would say every weekend. I mean, I also do like private events too. I have a few weddings in July and September. But yeah, music is my language, and it's something I want to keep doing. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. When I think about it seems you have a very stubborn character where you're like, this is the challenge, I'm going to learn it.
Do it.
If it's production, I'm going to learn it. If it's DJing, I'm going to learn it. Where's this spirit of never giving up coming from?
Honestly, I feel like it stems from my parents. I come from a family of artists. My mom is a musician. She's a singer. She played instruments as well. My dad was a painter, artist, illustrator. And, growing up, they, always taught us to, if you want to do something, just go ahead and do it. You only have one life, so why not, put yourself out there. If it doesn't work for you, then you can at least say that you tried and then just maneuver, do something different. So it's something I've always kept in mind, and something I like to teach people as well. A lot of times, we have a fear of something, and that is what is stopping us from, moving on to the next level. But again, this is your only life, you might as well just take it to the moon, do everything. Right?
I have a few other questions.
Of course.
I DJed for a while too. I don't know if you're aware about that. and I'm just thinking that there is always perception that being a DJ does not pay, or it does not pay enough, and as I was thinking of asking this question, I'm also thinking that there's no job that pays enough,
No.
and so I just want to get your perspectives, because if you love something, you do it whether it's paying or not.
That's correct. Yes.
And so I feel that for me, when I was a DJ, I was getting paid.
Yes.
And the other thing is, as a DJ, I was also producing my own events, so getting paid even more,
Okay.
and hiring other DJs.
Yeah.
And then over time, I got to the place where I was hiring artists and producing things like Madaraka Festival.
Yeah.
And I feel that many DJs or artists or creatives spend a lot of time complaining and worrying about what's not happening. I'm not being paid enough. This is not enough. I don't think it's never enough. No. But it seems like you have figured out how to do what you need to do. Yeah. Despite what people say.
Right.
How are you doing it?
Oh, that's a really good question. For me, it's really like, what keeps me motivated? Like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I a DJ?
Yeah.
Like, to be able to look beyond the negatives of being a DJ, it took a long time. It took a lot of, failure, a lot of judgment at that. But I think the biggest thing for me is just trying, at least trying, but also just keeping that, like, positive mindset, whatever your purpose is. Like, my purpose is, to connect people through music. Like, as long as I reach that at the end of the day, like, I've gotten everything that I asked for, Doesn't matter if I made $2 or $200 that day. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Also, one thing also that I see in your work everywhere is the level of networking that you're doing, and also the level of community building that you're doing.
Yes.
I feel that you're very deliberate. You know how to take space.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of Kenyans specifically who live in the US, they're in cocoons.
Right.
And so I wanted you to just speak about the value of being willing to be the lone wolf, because I feel like you're in spaces where you don't find many of us,
No.
and you're doing that unapologetically.
Yes.
And I think it's very incredible to watch you do that.
Yeah. It is. Honestly, like, having the ability to be involved in such different communities, like, that's helped teach me a lot about different cultures, how people connect. And I've always been the type of person, like, I don't want to think outside the box. I just want to see what's around, what everyone has to say, things like that. So, as in the African community and the Kenyan world, people do like to hang out in their certain groups. But with me, I want to connect everyone. I want to see what this group has in connection to this one, and eventually, like, merge people together, because I realized, like, anytime you seclude yourself into one zone, you only know the values, the mission of that single zone, and you don't get to understand what, the world has to offer, what the world can offer. So just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to, learn new things, try new foods, learn new languages, things like that. Yeah. Those will help, like, mend your life, your experience, like, your adventure in life. So, yeah.
I love that. I want us to talk about Madaraka Festival, how you learned about it, and also what's most exciting about it for you, especially because we just told you that you're going to be on the Madaraka Festival stage before we started recording. But for now, I want us to talk about pets just for a second, because a lot of Kenyans and a lot of Africans in general, we grew up with dogs specifically and cats really being like domesticated wild animals. You know, they live, they fend for themselves, but they know that they belong to this family, you know.
Yes.
And the whole neighborhood knows that, oh, that dog belongs to DJ Biz's family.
Right.
You know, all that chicken, you know. But then here, everybody has their pets in their houses. Mm-hmm. They spend nights with their dogs, you know. They kiss their dogs, you know. So I wanted you to speak about, you know, dog parenting or pet parenting.
Yeah.
And because I feel that it's also something that is so good for your mental health. It's I feel like it's a good way to build companionship and connection beyond human connection.
Correct.
We have that in Africa. We have connection to our cows.
Yeah.
You know, we treat them like pets because we know we are going to make money off of them.
Exactly.
Or our goats, you know.
Yeah.
But I just enjoyed listening to you talk about your pets before we pressed record.
Yeah.
And I feel that of course many Kenyans have pets now, especially those who live in the US, but also back home. When you see buddies, they all have like beautiful pets. You know?
Yes.
So I just want you to speak about the value of having pets and caring for them and knowing them the way you do. Yours. Yeah.
I would say the connection that I've developed with pets is very different from like a human perspective. You know, when I first got my first puppy, she was 8 weeks old. I've never had my own pet before, and I was like, you know,
8 weeks old.
Yeah. She was baby. She was like this blonde. Yeah. But over the course, you know, of her growing up, I've learned to be patient. I've learned to, you know, this is a pet. This is a dog that doesn't have anyone or doesn't know what nurture is, or like this is a new environment for them. So like I'm the one that's responsible for like molding how they act, how they're trained, you know, how they behave, things like that. At first it was really challenging because I didn't really understand like the amount of work that it takes to have an indoor dog. So like, in Kenya, like you just leave them, they feed for themselves, they'll do whatever. But here, like you gotta take them to the vet, you gotta take them outside, you know. If you live in a park, they have to be exercised multiple times a day, things like that.
If they're sick, you take them to the vet. Sometimes it's more expensive than your own healthcare.
You know? And it has been. Like you have to potty train them, you know, things like that. And I think that's kind of what made me get a second dog, because
You wanted the first dog to train the second dog?
Kind of, sort of. Okay. I mean, my dog was like 1.5 at that point before I got a second dog, and I was like, oh, I just want to see like how different breeds like interact with each other, because you know, just like humans, we all act differently. So I'm like, okay, breeds, we have a breed of a dog here. And then that's when I found my pit Rottweiler mix. She's a rescue. I found her when I was DJing in Canada, actually. But I've been able to like see their connection and how they kind of how do I say it? How do they interact with each other? How they coexist with each other. Because when I first got my second dog, I believe she was about 10 weeks, and then my other one was about like 1.5. So just like observing their behaviors and like how they interact with each other, like how they sleep next to each other, how, you know, things like that. It kind of helped me think about like, oh, so if I'm the one that's responsible for like molding how they act, how they behave, then I just need to have a good plan, a good strategy, so that I have, you know, well-behaved dogs and they get along with each other. But another thing is just like researching those breeds specifically, because I have a pit Rottweiler and a pug, and they're very opposite. Like, you know, my pit is like 70 pounds, my pug is 20 pounds, so they look very different as well.
I can't imagine taking them for a walk. Then you run into other dogs, and then they get into a fight.
And that has happened. Ironically, it's just, Yeah, but again, it's helped me as a person, as a character, to just, be aware, be observant, see like, hey, if this dog is like being aggressive, they're barking, I'm like, maybe we should go a different route. Have
you found that owning pets has given you a chance to also build community with other people who have dogs?
Yes, it has. Yes.
I think there's a special way that people who have dogs and pets connect with each other.
Yes, they do. There is a small pug community here in Seattle. So they have like little pug festivals where I think the last one we probably had like 40 or 50 pugs. So I just brought my dog, and it was a time for me to like connect with other people. And I actually met a few DJs there too. And I was like,
so
whoa.
DJs who own pugs.
Like, this is a good thing.
Anyway, I want you to look at this camera and invite everybody who is joining us today to Madaraka Festival on Saturday, August 30th from 12 to 9 p.m. at Pier 62. And then we will talk about Madaraka Festival after that.
Okay. Yes, please join us on August 30th at Pier 62 here in Seattle from 12 to 9.
Excellent. For Madaraka Festival.
For Madaraka Festival, sorry.
Perfect. So I have produced Madaraka Festival for 11 years. It started here in Seattle at the Museum of Pop Culture.
Yes.
When did you first hear about Madaraka Festival?
I believe it was 2016.
Oh, that was the third year.
Yeah.
Give me your perspectives about Madaraka Festival. What impact do we have in the Kenyan community and also in general?
Honestly, it's been like one of the biggest festivals that I've seen connect the African diaspora, especially the youth. I don't remember what year it was, but I just remember looking at the crowd and I was like, not all of these people are Kenyans. I don't believe they're all Kenyans, but it's something that I've admired for a while because, I'm all about connection, unifying the people, just connecting others, but also showing like, hey, there's African music. We can all enjoy African music. There's different cultures into the African music. But yeah, it's been a time.
I love that. How do you feel about playing Madaraka this year?
I am excited. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be, I played for African communities before, but it's going to be a big event, and I'm excited. I'm all about curating joy, so I'm excited to see people dance, people smile, the energy that it brings. During that time, I think it's around the peak of summer as well, so I'm excited to see the different communities and, everyone that it brings as well.
Wonderful. I can't wait.
Yes.
I can't wait to see you on the Madaraka stage, and I'm already picturing Pier 62, packed with people, filled with joy.
Yes. That's the goal. That's what we want.
Now, I want you to think about one question one thought that you have that I haven't asked. Something that as you are driving here, you're like, I really want to talk to Simon about this,
Yes.
Then also plug in your how people can connect with you. And then after that, I want you to also look at this camera and invite people to subscribe to Madaraka Festival on YouTube.
Okay.
But first, share what I didn't ask.
Let's see. That's a good question. I was not expecting. Something I didn't share. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but as a female Kenyan DJ, something that I always tell people or I have to keep in mind is, the world is big. Music is big as well. We shouldn't just, seclude ourselves to like one thing, just one instrument, So what I would guide people to know is, just try every instrument. If you don't like any instrument, create your own instrument. There's so much more that, music is a big language. There's so much more into it. And then, but I'll have another thought for you.
I love that. No, what you said was actually really profound. And it reminded me of something that you do here at the Seattle Drum School of Music.
Yes.
Can you speak about your work as a DJ instructor?
Yes. So I've had the pleasure of being an instructor here at the Seattle Drum School of Music for a couple months now. I've had one student, and, you know, she, like, when we first started teaching, like, I wanted to know, like, why do you want to be a DJ? Like, what made you, like, get into this area? She was like, no, I love music. I love seeing joy, and so I want to learn how to, you know, spread that joy. And, you know, it's taught me a lot about teaching, but also about how people learn. You know, I've had to kind of just step back and, you know, see, like, what kind of learner she is, you know, how does she remember things, like, what, you know, what should our, you know, teaching plan look like, how should I plan it, how should we, you know, give her homework, things like that. But it's been great. I think we do like one lesson here every Wednesday. So if anyone's interested, please come and join.
That's perfect. Yeah, we want to make sure you have more female DJs coming to your sessions.
Yes, of course.
So hopefully we'll cut this clip and use it for promoting your DJ classes.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah, and I'm big on every kind of music, so I'm not only teaching like specific ones. My student right now, she has a lot of interest, you know, in hip hop and Afrobeats, and when I was first teaching her like beat matching, I was like, you know, let's try a different genre. I want you to listen to something different and like get used to listening to it or watching out for like rhythms and tones and things like that, because it'll help you become a bigger DJ, an international DJ, you know, things like that. And you're able to kind of understand the feeling and emotions with different keys, different sounds, and how they all merge together. So it's not just fun.
Yeah.
We like to be broad.
Yeah. I love how you now bring your keyboard skills to DJing, you know. I love that. Anyway, I feel like we could talk for a long time. And so before we run out of time, I want to thank you so much for making the time to connect with me and record this episode.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, I want you to look at this camera and invite everyone who is joining us today to subscribe to Madaraka Festival here on YouTube.
Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe here to Madaraka Festival on YouTube. Like, share, comment. Let us know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you.
Excellent. Again, thank you for joining me. My guest today was DJ Biz, and I would love for you to also connect with her online. How can people stay in touch with you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram, SoundCloud, TikTok, at That's DJ Biz. So THATS DJ BIZ.
Excellent.
Yes, and then I do have a few shows coming up. I have a fashion show at Seattle University on the 21st, and I will be DJing at Trinity on June 27th.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you again, and thank you all for joining us. Peace.